interesting because, you mentioned Florida, that this is some cave in Florida, and that tree that emits water through its system.
It has a straw that sucks the water from the little rivers, and it drips water or the substance on the other plants around it. Everything around it flourishes.
It raises, the story of Juan Ponce de Leon, who was one of the Spanish conquistadores. He explored Florida, and one of his missions was he sought the fountain of youth.
Okay.
So that was in Florida, Ponce de Leon. So, to me, it's like, well, that tree that you saw, could that be the fountain of youth that Ponce de Leon was searching for?
I don't know. Wherever I went, it was beautiful. I know that. It was different. You felt, just by breathing the air, you felt stronger. You felt healthier. It was like amazing. The feeling that you feel when you go into this place. And everybody felt the same way. Everybody felt happy, like amazing.
You're listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
I am here once again with JP on Exopolitics Today. And for those that don't know JP, I have known him since 2008. He joined the US Army and has been performing a number of missions in addition to his regular military specialty, which we can say is, maybe he can say a little bit about his military occupation specialty. He gets called away on these special missions, and we've described some of those earlier missions to Ganymede, to the moon, to an Atlantic space arc. And I believe JP has just completed another mission. So welcome, JP, to Exopolitics Today.
Doing, Doc, it's a pleasure to be here in Exopolitics, sharing my information. And it's information that everybody wants, and let's give it to them. It's I think the people should hear about this. I just want the people. I'm being pushed also to give this information, so I'm kind of protected inside the branch. Yeah, I'm gonna share a mission that I recently been in. I joined the military, the Army, and I'm really happy that I joined the military. I'm learning a lot about different things that I kind of knew, but now I know more in depth, more information. So it's really interesting being in military, and I support the military 100%. And I really want people also to understand that in no way I'm trying to put the military down or, in a negative way. I totally support the military.
But you support the US Army more than the Navy, right? Like, you root for the Army at the big football games, right? You don't go for the Navy, right?
Yeah, for sure. But we're all one team.
Okay.
When it comes to world events, we all work together and we all, share information. So it's a big one team, And I know other governments in the world understand that. And we do work together in space, in Earth, in the sea, and anywhere that there's a government or military. We all do work together. So if you want me to share, I'll share.
Please, yeah, tell us about your last mission.
So this last mission is quite interesting. They had me in charge. It was a group of 8 guys. We had different weapons. We came in on a TR-3B. I know a lot of people are familiar. What kind of ship is that? And I actually talked to the pilot a little bit. I let the guys bring down whatever equipment that we had in the TR-3B. And I was talking to the pilot of how the TR-3B works. And he was telling me it's ionized technology. So the military has been working on this since the 30s or 40s. and they made it the current of the ionized using a massive amount of electricity and some sort of quantum movement using a mercury that goes around and using some type of magnet to create this massive surge of electricity that creates a ionized. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. Is it ionized? Ions?
Well, it's creating an ionizing effect, and that's what part of the creating an anti-gravity wave.
Are you familiar with that?
Just a very basic understanding of the way the TR3 operates with the plasma going around at a very high pressure, and that it is a high temperature, and that generates a anti-gravity effect that lessens the weight. Now, I think the plasma is ionized, so maybe that's...
Well, the ionization makes the ship glow, and it makes it move. So yeah, he was explaining to me about that, and it was kind of interesting how he was explaining to me that is ionized technology that they're using. I think that's what it's called, ion.
So the craft is ionized. There's some sort of glow to the craft when it's operating. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the glow, it concentrates on where the magnets are. So those lights that we see on the TR2B is because it's ionized. But when it ionizes like so much that it condenses those three magnets condense into one, and that's what makes the whole ship glow and goes the speed it does. And it can just rapidly move easily using this ionization technology. I wrote it down somewhere. One day I'm gonna share it with you. There's more into this technology because it can time travel as well. And I did not know that. And when he told me that, he said that this technology can take you to the future, but not to the past. So it was quite interesting when he told me that.
Okay, so you get on this TR3B, you're leading the mission with 8 guys.
Mm-hmm. So we get off, we land, we flew like 10 to 15 minutes. We landed. The guys were taking down the equipment. I was talking to the pilot. There was actually 2 pilots. One got up and was by the door of the ship that went down. And I was talking to him, and I was asking him, hey, about technology, because, everybody was asking about it and how it worked. So he left us in Florida, somewhere in the forest. So we came into this cave, the size of a garage door cave. And we went in, and it was a total of 8 guys. And we had our PVB 14s and 31s. And it was almost night. So we went to this cave, and we saw writings, like right from the back that, when we got in. And it smelled like somebody has done a fire or a type of barbecue, that smell that you get when you do a barbecue and you smell that. So entering the cave, we all started smelling that. And we were joking because we were kind of hungry. It was like, wow, it smells like, barbecue. Oh yeah. Oh man. So we kept walking in. So we were met by 2 beings that looked different. And I talked to the guy that was right next to me. I asked him, do you know about these guys that are here? They're like holding a staff-looking thing, and they're like protecting the entrance. So one of the guys in the back said, oh, hey, I got a paper here that I had to give you before the mission, but I forgot to give it to you. So I got the paper, and it says, do not open it. Give it to the people that are standing guard. So we gave the paper to the people that standing guard.
Can you describe more about the people standing guard? What did they look like?
Well, these people, their faces are weird. Their eyes are on the side, like it's not like ours. Their eyes are more to the side, and their face is wider. Their mouth is wider, but their body structure is the same. I remember seeing a total of probably like 4 fingers instead of 5. They were wearing like a robe type of thing. It was like a pearl color robe, and they had on their head they had like a hair type of thing, like two coming out from their heads, but it looked like skin, and they had it to the side. So we approached them, we gave them the paper, and their eyes were shot black. So it was different. They look different. I never seen these type of people before. And they were talking with clicks, similar to like certain tribes in Africa talk. They talk with like clicks with their mouth, but they also speak the English language as well, but with a heavy accent. So we give this paper to them, and one opens it up and closes it up, and then he lifts up his staff and he says in a low voice, "Follow me, follow me." So we start following him. You know, a lot of things go through our heads. You know, it could be that these people are getting ready for Halloween. What the hell's going on? You know, are they dressed up? What is it? But ask. Our job is just to go there and to do our mission. So our mission was to go in and to investigate what was this place that we were dropped off to investigate, and why was it connected to the ark. They told us, I don't know if you remember the last story, the guy that had the suitcase, he was the one giving the information and the locations where to go. I'm sure there was another group that went to the ark that same day that I went to the cave. Yeah, they were talking with clicks. We were following them, total of 4. We were in formation. We don't know what the heck was going on, but we were in formation. Lock and loaded, because you never know. Nowadays, you just never know. You can't trust nobody. So we started following them. And when we followed them, it was really steep. Like if you trip and fall, you will probably roll all the way down. You can't stop it. You have your kit on, you're heavy, and you have your ACH, and you're heavy. So any kind of trip, and you're wearing your boots, so any kind of trip, you can really bust your ass and roll down that steep hill in the cave. But the walls were squared out, and it was steep. Sometimes there were steps. I was doing my pace count. My pace count was like 74 to 76. So every 76 or 72 steps, we saw, like, I felt stairs like for 15 meters, and then it kept going steeper. There was a time that it went so steep that we did a chain. We took our elbows to elbows, and we did a chain going down. But these guys, they were just walking like familiar to this, walking down. So we kept going down and down. Man, we walked like, probably, we were basically rucking. We walked like for maybe 40 to maybe an hour. I was checking my time. It was like maybe like 45 to an hour. We were walking down that steep hill inside the cave. So the smell was different. Then once you get to the bottom, it straightens out. It straightens out. And I'm sorry about my accent. I know a lot of people know about this, but English is like my second, third language. So yeah, I speak Spanish and Portuguese, and also I speak English. I know a lot of people have been asking about that. So my pronunciation maybe is messed up, or sometimes my grammar is also messed up. I just want to let people know that, Doc.
JP, so you mentioned that some people were sent to the Atlantic Arc, and you and the eight guys were sent to this tunnel. Now, what's the connection between the Ark and this tunnel?
Well, that's the thing that we were checking. So we get to the bottom. There was a big door. It looked like a hangar door. So this guy, he touches this round looking rock. And I'm talking about the different looking beam. He touches this round rock and he just swipes it to the right, swipes it to the left, and then it starts glowing. And this hangar starts opening up and it's super bright in there. And you see a lot of vegetation. And we were like, what the heck is going on? What is this? So we enter with precaution. But once that opened up, the light bounced it off and started shooting up to the cave. That's how bright it was. But you can clearly see the vegetation, and there's a source of light that we could not see. And in the distance, we could see like a fog. We had a guy with us that was part of our group that he's also he knows about plants. He went to school on plant biology, so he was with us in the mission.
A botanist.
Yeah. So whoever put this team together knew what was going to happen. That's what I'm trying to say. That we had different people with different kind of specialties and all that. So he says, "Wow, look at these plants." And then he started talking, saying, some of these plants has been extinct for hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of years. And he kept talking about it, and he saw these plants. He was going crazy with it. And these plants were different. A lot of different looking plants that you wouldn't see on the surface. And these plants had different type of flowers. And there was actually, we were noticing like on the type of trees that they have, it looks similar to the trees that they have in Madagascar. Those trees that bleed, that are red, they look similar to those trees. I remember seeing those trees, but hanging for these trees, there was like a nest of some sort of bug, and he knew about these bugs as well. These bugs, they come out and they pollinate everything in there, and they look silver. These bugs, they look like a beetle, and they look really silver, but when they open up their wings, they look like a butterfly. And the light bounces off these bugs. And it was kind of interesting because on hard to reach places, you can see these bugs going in and they were reflecting light to these plants. So they had a connection. So it was kind of cool. There was different kind of insects. There was praying mantis looking insects that we saw, but purple. So yeah, they had different kind of insects there and different kind of animals also. We saw something that looked like a rabbit, but the ears were shorter and they were rounded off, and it had a long tail. So that was kind of cool. The eyes were humongous. So it looked just like a rabbit, but it had a bigger eyes, rounded ears, shorter, and it had a long tail with a white fur in the end of the tail. So it was kind of cool. We saw that. And it was not running away from us. It was trying to get close, sniff us, similar to what domesticated squirrels do, So we kept walking in, and in the distance, we saw like a temple-looking thing, and it was embedded in more into the ground, surrounded by vegetation, like vines and all that. It was a tropical type of location. Like it looked really tropical. And it was foggy, like our clothes got wet. The mist that it had. I don't know if the mist was artificial or there was a type of tree. I know that there was a tree there that was dripping water. So this tree has straws that sucks the water up, and it drips water. It takes water from the river and it drips water to the plants that surrounds it. So that was an interesting tree that dude was studying, and he was trying to get seeds of this type of tree because he said this tree can help a lot of villages in different parts of the world with farming because it sucks the water and it drips the water in their surrounding. It is a huge tree. And the water that comes out of it is drinkable and is filtered and it's healthy to drink. And it's like drinking half of honey. It's really, really interesting, this type of tree.
Well, that raises the very interesting question. I mean, in the book of Genesis, they talk about the tree of life.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this tree you saw sounds unlike any other tree I've ever heard. But the fact that water is an important nutrient and that it filters it and that it's, can be used for the plants or for drinking. I mean, yeah, that kind of like raises that very interesting question. Any relationship with the tree of life in the book of Genesis?
Well, I'm not sure, but it could be that this tree is part of that, because it was protected by these people that were there. Once we entered, we saw a lot of these people walking around, and they were dressed in robes, and they were just taking care of these plants. Like, it was a huge place, like probably like 15 football fields big, bright. I don't know where the heck the light was coming from. It looked like it was emanating from the walls, but it was like white. And you could see vegetation, green vegetation, and you could see all these types of animals. And I'm sure they had pockets of these places, different places that you can go to that have different type of plants from every nation or something like that. That's what one of the guys were telling me about, historian type of dude. His job was to see the writings or see anything that this culture had. And he said that something around Nevada, they talk about the Indians, they talk about these people, and it's kind of interesting.
Well, very interesting because, you mentioned Florida, that this is some cave in Florida, and that tree that emits water through its system.
It has a straw that sucks the water from the little rivers, and it drips water or the substance on the other plants around it. Everything around it flourishes.
It raises, well, the story of Juan Ponce de Leon, who was one of the Spanish conquistadores. He explored Florida, and one of his missions was he sought the fountain of youth.
Okay.
So that was in Florida, Ponce de Leon. So, I mean, to me, it's like, well, that tree that you saw, could that be the fountain of youth that Ponce de Leon was searching for?
I don't know. Wherever I went, it was beautiful. I know that. It was different. You felt, just by breathing the air, you felt stronger. You felt healthier. It was like amazing. The feeling that you feel when you go into this place. And everybody felt the same way. Everybody felt happy, like amazing. And we saw oval type of flying vehicles as well that were flying left to right. And we were asking them, are those vehicles, or they just use it? Yeah, they use it for transportation. So it also leaves there really fast. Like, it blinks out of existence, and then they blink back in existence. So they probably have the technology of teleporting these ships anywhere they want. It's kind of cool, using a type of quantum entanglement technology or some sort. But they're really advanced in agriculture. And I'm thinking these people taught a lot of different indigenous people or Indians how to do vegetation, or how to plant, or how to use certain kind of foods, what to eat, what not to eat. So it's kind of interesting where we went. And we kept walking down into this temple-looking thing, and then we started seeing writings similar to the Indians in Mexico.
You mean the writing was similar to what was in the Atlantic arc that the Mexican Aztec people saw and started?
Curiamate, exactly.
Okay. And now we know that a Curiamate means is an activation code.
Yes. So these people that went to the ark, it was that tunnel that they went to, and they went through, that time changed you remember the Chinese were mad because they went in there and time changed. So I think that tunnel is connected to this place that we went to.
Okay, so just to remind the listener, you're talking about the mission to the Atlantic space arc where there was a kind of time dilation effect that people would slow down, movements would slow down. You know, if you waved your hand, you wouldn't just, it would be like a very slow wave where you see like multiple hands.
Yeah, exactly.
But the Aztec Mexicans were able to walk through the space arc there under the Atlantic because they were singing and dancing a Kuriamate, and they went through, whereas you mentioned the Chinese members of that expedition, that they got stuck. They couldn't move. They couldn't follow the Mexicans, even though they wanted to.
Follow the Aztecs guys into the cave. And remember that we left them behind. And when we came back to pick them up, they were different. You know, it was kind of interesting. So we started going into the temple, and we saw these writings, and we saw in the distance like a sarcophagus. How you say it?
Sarcophagus?
There we go. Yeah, my language is messed up, Doc. I don't know what to do. I don't know how they can hear me in the army, you know, but I know there's a lot of Spanish-speaking people in the military, you know, that understands me. So it was huge. I have to tell you that. And they were protecting this type of tomb, whatever it was. And then the guy that could read the writings, he said that what they had in that tomb was a type of god that they were waiting for it to come back alive. So
for a god to come back alive, to return.
Yeah. We went in there and there was candles, but these candles were made by a vine. It looked like a vine, and you can see fire coming out from this vine. So it was actually a plant that can create fire that they had hanging in the temple. And this plant, every couple of seconds, it does like a puff and it creates light, like a fiery, like a candle. And I think is the same way, I guess, it uses like a acidic kind of thing, and it does a puff and it creates like a fire, but it doesn't burn away. It just keeps doing it. So they had dozens of these plants around the temple, and the smell of the puff was like vanilla. Amazing smell. It's beautiful. And then it looked like, let's see if I can. So there's an example, okay? It looks similar to like this, but it looked like their vine swings up, and then it has a beautiful flower here, like a reddish yellow flower. And this vine is like this, and it puffs up, and it gives like a little smoke, and then it turns into fire, and it lights up. And I think this plant does that to attract the insects at night. So that's what the plant biologist was talking about. He says, wow, I didn't know plants can do that. They could attract insects by the little flame and also by the smell that flame does. So these plants were kind of interesting, because now this makes me understand how the ancient people probably lived inside these caves on Earth, and the lighting of how they probably painted came from these plants that probably lit up.
Now you just described the vine that had kind of like almost like a firefly, like it lights up, kind of like, I guess, a firefly. Now, is that plant or the vine that carried these little bulbs that would just kind of like light up like a firefly, is that similar to what you saw on the Atlantic space arc? You said there was these plants that were covering the writings and that they were luminescent. Is that the same?
Yeah, it's similar to those plants, but this one was different. It was quite different, these plants. Yeah, it's similar to those plants, but those plants in the ark, they glow. They were glowing. It does not emit fire like real flame like these plants.
I see.
And the name that he was giving me, tractores de insectos. That was the name they were given, attractors of bugs in Spanish. The people that they look different. Remember, I was telling you they were there with us, walking with us, and they said tractores de insectos, attractors of insects. And we saw a lot of like type of Venus fly traps also, but different. They look so different. They look like drums, and they open up like they just open the mouths and they close, and they have this seed on top that when it closes, it hits them and it makes a noise like a little drum. So that was kind of interesting. Also seeing that. So every time they catch a bug, they have like seeds that hits the top of it, and it makes noises at night. So you hear all these types of Venus kind of plants like closing and opening at night, similar to what frogs do. So these plants, they were different back in the days. They were more communicative with each other, like more like regular mammals or insects. The plants back in the days, they were more communicative with each other, and they did a lot more different stuff than what we have now.
Okay, so you're seeing all these exotic plants down there at the bottom of this very large cavern that has anti-gravity craft that flies around, and this mysterious tree, and these vines that have a kind of like some kind of organic fire breathing or fire emitting plant. So what else did you see?
We saw these people bringing a type of food to us. We sat in a circle, and they were asking me, "Hey, how long do we have to be down here?" I said, "I don't know. They have to give us something back. After we're here, we have to bring something back with us." So we were just waiting. We didn't want to be rude and say, "Hey, give us whatever you need to give us, and let's get the hell out of here." We don't want to be, So it was it wasn't like it was not pleasant. We didn't have no bugs biting us. We didn't have nothing bothering us. Our OCPs has bug repellent regardless. So a lot of military people would know that. So it was a pleasant trip, and we were just waiting for them to give us something in return. And we had to protect whatever they give us and take it with us back to the base and give it to whoever was asking for it. They brought us this type of food. I can tell you what kind of food they had. The food was similar to like beans, but it was mushed up, and they had plates that look really steep. It was made of clay, and this you eat it, and you feel a little bit dizzy eating it, but it's good food. They give that kind of food to us, and we ate it, and then they took us into the temple, and they showed us the being that was in there. And I don't know how to describe this, but he was huge, big, and he looked asleep, and he did not look like these creatures. He looked humanoid to us. We looked at it, and he looked like he was asleep, and they were just waiting for him to wake up. And I thought that he was gonna wake up while we were there, so I didn't want to be there when he woke up because I don't know what the hell was gonna happen.
How big was he?
He was like the sarcophagus. How you say it?
Sarcophagus.
La caja. That's how you say it in Spanish. La caja. The box was like facing in the slant, so all you can see was the skull. The skull was probably 4 times bigger than my skull. big head, big eyes. And he had, like, his hair was different. His beard was like wrapped around his neck. And it looked like he had a long beard because it was wrapped around, like it went like this and then wrapped around his neck and laid behind his head. And I think that he was like 11, probably 12 feet humanoid. So
Red hair, white hair, black hair. What kind of
white,
complexion?
white hair. He had white hair. He had white specks in his face, like freckles, and his skin was like a type of white grayish. I don't know if it was like that because he was pale or he hasn't woken up in a long time. But it was like a white grayish color, and his lip was blue, like if he was lacking oxygen or something like that. But he was in this box, and we got scared when we saw it because we were talking, how about they brought us down here to when he wakes up, like to take him out, or what the hell is going on? And why would they show him? Like one guy was so negative there. He was like, why would they show this to us? And what's going on? I said, bro, just just follow us and just keep the mission. We were kind of scared when we saw this because we don't know why they were showing this. And then we were asking one of the guys. He says they were showing it to us to make us feel welcome in their culture.
Now, earlier you mentioned something about they were waiting for their God to wake up. So they told you about this being, and
they told us. How about if he would have woken up like right there, like right away? So we didn't want to be there when he woke up because what reaction would he have of us being there? That was most of it. I didn't really care. If he woke up, let's communicate with him and let's do whatever we need to do. But we were waiting for something there. So they took us out back.
Before you say that, so the sarcophagus that he's in, you said it was at a slant and you could only see his head. So what did the sarcophagus look like? Was it made out of metal? Was it stone?
It was like a stone. Like it looks like a door type of shape, but it slanted into the ground. It looked like it was put in there. So I don't know how they moved that stone, but it probably weighs more than 4,000, probably 5,000 pounds. It's like a marble type of stone. Like it's heavy. It's a heavy stone, and it had handles, big handles that it looked like other big humanoids can move it. So whoever put them there they were big as well, and they kept these other humanoids that looked like different from us to protect this place. And there was step pyramid looking also in the distance. You can see like just like the Aztecs step pyramids in the distance. You can see it was made of really bright gold. The edges only of every step was made of gold, and you can see the reflection of the steps coming back towards us. We saw that in the distance coming out from the temple. So we kept walking. They kept showing us around. We saw a lot of different kind of animals. We saw something that looked like a small elephant, but it had tusks in the bottom and had legs like deers, but its snout was like an elephant. It was kind of interesting. Really friendly. It felt like it had a feel like a pig. It was snorting around. Smelling our feet and all that, and it had tusk. So it was a size up to like my knees. I'm 6 foot, so to my knees would be like what 3 feet tall, like in between my thighs and knees. So we saw those creatures. We saw a cat that looked like a saber tooth as well, type of cat, but it was small type of saber tooth style kind of cat. We saw a lot of different reptiles. We saw a type of reptile that looked like a dinosaur, but it looked like a chicken, but it had scales instead of feathers. But it still had a beak, and it had a tail, and then in the end of the tail it had these feathers that closes and opens. So it was kind of cool. We saw other types of looking bees. We saw blue that looked like blue honeybees, but they were blue in color. That was kind of cool. And their honey is like whitish honey. It's not golden honey. I think is because of the plants that are there. The color of the honey, their honey. We tasted it and it tastes like pear. The honey, it tasted like pear, like a really, really, really ripened pear. So, and it had that texture as well. So it was kind of really good type of food. There was also different kind of fruits that we never seen before. We were there like for 5 hours, Doc. We were there for 5 hours. It was a really tiring day for me because we walked a lot with our kit, you know. They actually asked us to take our kit off, you know, and leave it, but I didn't let none of my guys take that off, or we kept our kit on in all times and kept our weapons with us in all times because we were just waiting for that moment. And then in the end, he comes in with this box and I ask him, what is this? What are you giving us? He comes in with an elder that was slightly taller than him, but looked the same way as them. And he says, these are seeds, different type of seeds that the people upstairs are asking for. And they talk like that with pulse, like these are seeds for the people upstairs that are asking for it. And we made a deal, and this is for you guys. And I said, what is this? And he pointed to that particular tree that we saw that was drinking up the water. And he said, and also those vines that give out like fire. And he said that it was time for them to give them the seeds of this garden. And they also gave us tubes of eggs of some sort. I don't know if they were insects or probably the silver insects that we saw, but they were frozen and they kept it inside this clay, but it's like a gel inside, and they kept it inside like that, and they give it to us like it looked like a ball of clay, but it has like a cap that you can open, and it has like a gel that they keep these capsules in it, and they gave us that. So we make our way back. They gave us like a type of hug and all that. So we start walking out. We say goodbye, and then I asked, "Are we going to see you guys again?" And they said yes. We will go to the surface soon. So they were saying that they will come to the surface soon, and they said to start rebuilding. I said, "Wow, rebuilding what?" You know. And I asked him, "How many of you guys there are?" And he says, "Billions, millions, millions, billions of these type of humanoids that live inside the earth in different pockets."
Okay, can you be clearer? Millions or billions?
Millions. It could be, but he said that there was a lot. So I don't know if it's billions or millions. And we kept walking up the cave. We were tired. Once we stepped out, they closed the door, and it was dark. We put our flashlights on, our red flashlights, and we kept walking up the cave. And we got to the TR3B, and then we came back and we gave this box to, they told us to drop it in this particular location and to leave it there. I don't know who picked it up or who got it, but I know that we left it inside the base. So whoever got the box was part of us, but a higher level. And that was our mission, Doc. It was kind of interesting. It was fun. And we learned a lot about that culture.
Were you ever given a name for that garden or that culture?
No.
Did the guards of the temple or garden, did they ever say anything about, who they are, their names?
They just look weird. They never told us their name.
Okay. And people within the military, within the covert branches of the military, want you to share this information. Can you say anything about that?
Yeah, I asked prior to share this information. They said yes, I could share it. Just don't give your name and don't tell people where you're at.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you, JP, for sharing your latest mission. Definitely fascinating and raises a lot of questions about the history of Florida and connection to space arcs. And
it's funny that Florida in Spanish is flowers. So that's quite interesting. You know, the purpose, why was it called flowers? Like you said, that guy that found that beautiful garden, you know, the garden of youth, de Leon. So that's kind of interesting.
All very fascinating. Well, I guess we're going to find out eventually more about all of this. Thank you for sharing that, and we look forward to more updates from you.
Roger, appreciate it.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.